He's telling us to go that way, which looks like the road to nowhere. Ooh, boo. Ooh. Can you hear that? That's my fault. The last bit of that walk from Rivington Gardens to this point been quite long and pretty uneventful. I've got to be honest with you. So this would be the end of your walk, or pretty much nearby the end of your walk, if you started from the official starting point. But we're approaching the last part of our walk, but not the end of our walk. So there's still some ways to go. So I've held off filming anything major until there's anything major to look at. There's been a lot of fields, a lot of road, and a nice little bit of woodland. Hello. I feel bad now. Come get her. Oh my God. Oh. So this is our climb, which if we were setting off from the cricket club would be our introduction to the chorley-three-peaks, with Great Hill at the very start. Here goes nothing. Oh, I think there's a lot of midges. Bugger off. To Belmont Road and Brinskull. And we've come from down there. Can you see? It's wild horse sheep. You can start to see Winter Hill now in the distance. To me, that means we're nearly there. So that's all that's left of Coppice Farm. I've just been reading. There was one family lived here with one room on the ground floor and one room on the first floor, and they farmed sheep. But when the Liverpool Company, as it was called, wanted the land or wanted to build the reservoirs in the bottom, they had to move on because it wasn't considered sanitary to have livestock and the wastewater running down into the reservoir, so they had to move. Which is quite sad. That, and the fact that by the industrial era, mills had opened in the valleys, and with mills came education and regular work. So families moved down into the valleys and the farms became lost. On the sign back there, it said, you'd be astounded at what was considered normal walking distance back in those days in comparison to what's considered normal walking distance in this day and age. That was quite a nice find on the way around. What a fabulous view down through that valley. It's probably worth talking a little bit about Great Hill whilst we're on our way up to it. Oh God. Back to this again. Just a minute. I don't like doing that, but that's the alternative. So, yeah, it's 1,252 feet above sea level, and I think I mentioned before that it's got a bench, a four-sided bench at the top of it, and that's where I intend to have a drink if it's still warm. What's it famous for? Well, Great Hill feeds several waterways from Anglesark Moor, probably down into those reservoirs and tributaries that feed them. And it's also the intersection of a lot of different paths between Chorley and Darwin. This is Drinkwater's lost farm. 50 farms on the landscape back in the 1800s and 1900s. We must be pretty near the summit now, because you're starting to be able to see Lancashire and the West Pennine moors, which I guess we're probably on already. That's going to be the South Lakes right there in the distance. And the three peaks that we've not done today. They're not that one anyway. And our old friend Pendle Hill. And if you watched last week's video about the singing ringing tree, we had a really good view of that. I'll put a link in. If you've stuck with me this long through the video, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you know what? I can see the top. And once we get there, let's have a 360 for the benefit of those who hung about. I'm going to try and make it as short as possible and look at the highlights only. But thank you. So that's it, folks. That's our last stop. Our little bench, cross-shaped bench at the top of Great Hill. Let's do a 360 before we set off home. So there's our friend Darwin Tower, right in the distance. The Yorkshire Three Peaks are somewhere over there, as is the singing ringing tree. The South Lakes and Morecambe Bay. Right in the distance is Blackpool Tower on the horizon. You can see all the wind farms in the middle of the sea over there. Then you've got further down towards Liverpool and the port down there. And then in the distance, but it's gone a little bit overcast, you've probably got the Welsh Mountains and the Great Orme. the Great Hornbeam over there, I think. Then you can see Rivington Pike, and you can see where we started off at Winter Hill. What a difference in the weather, eh? Consider what it was like this morning. And then in the far distance, I guess, you can see Saddleworth Moor. So, fantastic view up here. I'm going to make our way back down to the car now. And I'm not going to film a lot of this because it's a bit samey. It's a bit like this all the way down. It is boggy in parts, so I might get my feet wet. And it is quite a long way. So if anything major happens, I'll bring you back. But if nothing happens, which I'm hoping is going to be the case, let me say goodbye. So I'm on my way back to the car now, I hope. But I am going in the same direction that we started off at. So I'm hoping that's right. I'm sure it is. I've been up here a few times. They're famous last words, aren't they? But if you're leaving me here, which I suspect you are, thanks for a great adventure today. It's been a hoot. We've seen some great things. We started off with some pretty intense weather, didn't we? At one point, I thought, what are we doing with that thunder and lightning? That was absolutely crazy. Then we made it over the moor to Rivington Pike. And we learned all about that being a beacon that was lit during the times of the Spanish Armada sailing up the northwest coast. Then we had a lovely walk through Rivington Gardens, past Pigeon Tower, learned about Lord Leverhulme and the beautiful house that he built up there, sadly now gone. And then we had a little bit of a hiatus, I guess, because it is quite a distance between that bit and coming up to Great Hill. Varied though, meadows, reservoirs, little bits of woodland, pretty. I'm sure we'll have put some of that footage in. So I'm going to say see you until next week. No idea where we're going next week. Not even thought about it. It is a bank holiday Monday next week, so I might not be filming on a Monday. I will be publishing on a Monday. Until then, until next time, have a great week. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Positive, negative. I'm not precious. And do like. And I will see you on next week's Micro Adventure Monday. Thanks everyone. See you then.